Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining the live stream. We are really excited for another edition of Where Are They Now? For this conversation, we are excited to talk to Marcus Fairfield. 10 years ago, Marcus survived a car crash and sustained a spinal cord injury. After his hospital stay, he was transferred to Mary Free Bed for rehabilitation. We're going to talk to Marcus and some of his team about his journey over the past 10 years, and we're excited to have a great team here for Mary Free Bed. We got Kristen Duffler, a nurse liaison, who helped Marcus get with his admission to Mary Free Bed. We also have Jamie Shoemaker and Jess Reams. We've got occupational therapists and physical therapists. So bringing both in the inpatient side and nurse liaisons, really excited. So we are all here in the room together. We're going to go around the circle and just maybe say, to start, like how long you guys have been working at Mary Free Bed. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing to see. So we've got Marcus over here on the camera. We've got Jess way over there. We've got Kristen down below and Jamie over that way. So let's go around the room here. Kristen, why don't you just tell me how long you've been working at Mary Free Bed?
So I've actually been at Mary Free Bed 25 years in 2 weeks. So sorry for your luck, everybody. But here I am. Nope, I started my first 13 years or so as a spinal cord and brain injury, mostly spinal cord bedside nurse. And then the last half of my career, I've kind of transitioned into the liaison role here at Mary Free Bed.
Jamie, what about you?
Yeah, 15 years, which is crazy. But yeah, I started as a PRN occupational therapist, and then I was on the spinal cord team and did a little team lead time there, and now I'm the operations manager for inpatient therapy.
So how much are you still on the floor working with patients?
I make myself go up on the floor and kind of hang out. So yeah, I don't do clinical care anymore, but in my role, I really support a lot of the decisions that get made and how things are conducted for scheduling or equipment or that kind of thing. So.
And then Jess, what about you?
Yeah, I've been with Free Bed for 12 years now and in the same role. So therapy the whole time on the spinal cord injury team.
Nice. Okay, Marcus, let's actually go to where all of our team first met you, and it was the accident. Tell me a little bit more about just your life before the accident. What were some of your passions, your hobbies, things you were into?
Yeah, I was a military person, so I proctored my body quite a bit. I figured to keep me alive, so I did bodybuilding, flag football, basketball, that kind of thing. A family person. Mostly everything that was an outlet was physical, golf, fishing, driving cars was my main passion, and cooking next after that. So obviously the car accident came from a product of just playing with my toys a little bit. Yeah, had a little bit of frivolous income from deployment and things like that. So, yeah.
So we hear about it a lot, like a car accident and just how it changes your life. But you tell me about the injuries that you had. And the major one is spinal cord. But were there other things that you were recovering from right away too?
I mean, not really. Mostly it was just the C5, C6 fracture, and the recovery was all things that made it so I could eat and drink and use the bathroom and those kind of things. Mostly is recovering in that sense. We're dealing with the nerve damage and things.
And when you were first moving to rehabilitation, what were you able to do at that time? Like when you first came to Mary Free Bed?
I don't even think I could speak. I don't think I had nothing really other than look at people and play what charades, charades with my eyes, and I could mouth things. Yeah. So
Kristen, this is when, even before he came to Mary Free Bed, this is when you met Marcus. Tell me what like a nurse liaison does and how you interact with patients before they even admit to Mary Free Bed.
So, I met Marcus probably before Marcus met me in a sense. So I met him. I particularly am the liaison for Corewell Health, formerly Spectrum Health, formerly Butterworth. And at the time, he was in the ICU, intubated, so on a ventilator. The team over there, the trauma team and the ICU teams, they really would, especially the spinal cord population, like to get us involved as soon as we possibly can. They're excellent at it. So we're talking sometimes day 1, day 2. Sometimes we're getting consulted even from the OR when they do have especially a high-level spinal cord patient. So we got consulted right away on him. And that's not to necessarily bring him to Mary Free Bed in the next, 2 days, but that's to really kind of just start to get to read through the records, talk with the teams, talk with his family, and set some expectations of what to expect. And then really once once he started waking up a little bit more and able to talk, then we kind of start going through some of that pre-education stuff just to give him an idea of, what acute rehab is, what Mary Free Bed does, because not everybody's familiar with it unless you're in this position. So that's kind of the role of a liaison out in the field, is to really kind of set those expectations, form those relationships, and also do education, but communicate with the Mary Free Bed team, but also the outside acute care hospitals as well. So,
And I think that especially people outside, they might not know, like, to admit to inpatient rehab, there's some things you have to kind of meet to qualify. We don't have to go totally into the weeds, but just maybe kind of the basic stuff, like what makes a person a candidate for inpatient rehab?
So first of all, you want to be able to tolerate an intense rehab program. And so we're talking 3 hours of therapy a day, 5 days a week, really broken up in smaller 30-minute sessions throughout the course of a day. But it's a lot more than just, the physical therapy side of things. It's really the big picture of, how do I go to the bathroom? How am I, sometimes when a high-level cord happens, you have some brain injury stuff going on, some cognitive stuff, tube feedings, respiratory stuff. So it's really a big picture of being able to tolerate that amount of activity, which is really hard coming from a setting where you may be laying in bed for 10 days. And I think in your case, you said 21 days in the ICU to suddenly let's go do 3 hours of therapy throughout the day. So they do have therapy teams that are working throughout the area hospitals too, but it's pretty limited. I mean, in their defense, they've only so much you can do when somebody's in that sort of setting. So to go from 0 to 100 in a sense is probably the biggest thing, is to be able to tolerate that therapy. And then you throw in the stuff like the insurance barriers, of course, and the family support and what type of home setup they have. And, there's a lot that goes into being able to really be a good candidate to come in. And a lot of thinking outside the box sometimes too, honestly.
So you guys work with the teams, you bring over Marcus, and then first day you start meeting your therapy team. What kind of goes into that first day when, Jess, you walk into your session with Marcus, your first time meeting him? Jamie, like, what is that like? Jess, if you want to go first.
Yeah, I mean, we always do a thorough chart review, so I knew his level of injury. I knew it was extensive. And so one of the first things that we try to do on the PT side is just try to figure out how can the person get out of bed safely. Because as Kristen said, a lot of times people have not been out of bed for a month. And so what does that look like? And a lot of times after spinal cord injury, blood pressure is a problem. And so we need to optimize that safety, because people can pass out if their blood pressure is low. We also need to make sure that skin is a priority. And so we have special cushions for wheelchairs. But probably on day one, my first initial meeting was explaining my role, explaining where I was going to come into play with wheelchair and seating, because in my opinion, getting the person out of bed and moving is one of the most enriching things that we can give them.
Yeah.
After they had no independence with anything, if we can get somebody to drive their own wheelchair and just get out of the room and move about, that's great. But then I kind of go over all the other things that I would work on from a physical therapy standpoint. Leg movement, range of motion if it's appropriate. Any transfers are kind of like a physical therapy component. Wheelchair to bed, anything to do with equipment related to the bed and the mattress that he's on. Anything to do with stimulating the legs. A lot of times the initial question to PT is I'm going to walk again. What are we going to do for my legs? And so we discuss those types of things. But as you see in the pictures, a lot of my focus with Marcus over time was wheelchair related skills early on, because it allowed him to get out of the room and move himself around. And it was power and manual and, just also getting a sense of what his goals are and what he is like. And he told me, of course, more about his personal life and his interests. I always like to ask people, when you're feeling well, what do you like to do? Before all this, what was your day like? And let's see if we can kind of find ways to get parts of that back for you, if not all.
So Jamie, what about you, from an occupational therapy perspective? We heard just from Jess on the PT side when she first starts working, but what are you looking at when you see somebody like Marcus?
Yeah, I think when I met Marcus specifically, I think Kristen had given me a heads up about his situation and him coming in, and kind of trying to match personalities is important sometimes too, or just the demographic of relatability can strengthen that therapeutic relationship. So I knew a little bit about Marcus. I remember walking into his room mid bowel program,
Yep.
and like meeting him amidst that, which was probably a good thing because it gave us maybe both a vibe of who we were as people, and I think that kicked off like our therapeutic rapport a little bit. You can attest to that,
I
Marcus.
had to make a joke out of it. Yeah.
But what I was looking at is essentially upper extremity function. Seeing how his upper extremities presented relative to what we were seeing on paper for elbow extension around that C5, C6 level. Is it there? How strong are his biceps? Wrist extension. And he had like a noticeable difference with one stronger wrist and one that we knew off the bat we would be working on. So I think, that's more of the upper extremity assessment piece, and then just getting kind of an idea of what made Marcus tick, which lucky, I think, for him being like massively into bodybuilding and understanding a lot of the strengthening aspects of what goes into that played as an advantage as we got into building up his strength and getting into electrical stimulation and understanding like these new mechanics of his body, and alongside providing education around what to expect for a spinal cord injury because he was still in spinal shock. So at that point, it's like we got to see what happens and see if we get to notice any new movement or any new sensation. And just educating along the way. And Marcus was really inquisitive and wanting to understand every step of the way, and just approached it like head on, which was really, I think, remarkable.
You kind of said at the beginning the connection of like personalities and you work together. Like, how important is that, Marcus, to like really connect with the people that are working with you, challenging you and helping you?
I think it's huge because that relationship would garner like a lot more effort out of me, I guess, because I feel connected to the person. I'd say we're still friends. I'd say we text every couple of months at least, a minimum. Go grab drinks and lunch and stuff. And I don't think if we didn't connect that way, I probably wouldn't have pushed myself quite as hard. I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Maybe he was able to come in, and I probably would have told him to, get the hell out.
Yeah.
A lot more if he wasn't somebody I respected.
Yeah.
And gained a friendship with. So it got a lot more out of me for sure.
What's it like having to push somebody? Like, at that point where he's saying, hey, get out of here.
Yeah.
But like, how do you push somebody and have them still like take it well?
It was hard it's hard to explain because Marcus was jacked. Like, and even when he came in, he was still jacked and having this crazy shoulder pain and, watching him be like, why is this happening? He'd raise his arm and, the tricep would give way. But we did a lot of manual therapy on his shoulders to try to reduce pain. And that was temporarily successful, at least to get to the point where we could start to do some strengthening exercise. And getting him to buy into that, I think, was part of the trust building too. Like, what is man? What are you doing to me?
Man rubs.
It's good to be able to laugh about this stuff afterwards. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's
Definitely.
interesting because it's like with this type of injury, we have to use the arms all of the time. And so sometimes less is more. Just like breaking things down, you don't have to like go 100%. And he was so used to going 100% with all of his workouts. And it's like some of it comes with experience and working with people over time and realizing like if you push them too hard, the next day they're not going to be able to do anything. But at the same time, we don't want to tear up his shoulders so that he can't use them for other things. Like, what's the quality of life behind it? We can take things slow. But yeah, he's such a hard worker and always is in every capacity of his life. So once I think he understood the why and was seeing the results, it like carried through.
And how long were you inpatient working with this team?
7.5 months.
7.5 months. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, is that that seems to me like on the longer side,
craziest.
right? Like,
Like
it always kind of depends on how long patients are.
it had to be.
You're looking to me. I don't remember.
Is that
Okay,
inpatient
so
and outpatient?
I got
I mean,
there.
when
I
was
got there
Kennedy
May,
that will help.
November 22nd.
Okay, so you were out, but then came back.
You are going through your life change, adapting to your new normal, but you have a new life starting on the outside too. Like, what was that like having to, and we have some videos on our social media that we can link to, but like, how was that a goal for you to like get to something that you could feel like I can be a good father to Kennedy?
I mean, to me, it was pretty easy to have motivation when I was there because I had, a baby coming. So I needed to figure out as much independence as possible. I wanted to figure out how to be as least burdensome on my family and, I don't know, be something that she could be proud of as soon as possible, especially when she's becomes aware. So that was a big goal. I mean, getting as much as I could, do as much as I could. And that's why I stayed in therapy for a little over 2 years, full-time outpatient. Yeah.
And I think with the auto reform too, we kind of touched base on that this recording, but it was a no fault state at that point. And so it would allow you to really stay for a lot longer than they let you stay now.
You're right.
Too.
I begged for more time, and we just found new goals and that kind of stuff the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How important are goals? Having something for them to be motivated to. I know can't just be as blanket of like I want to get back to my old life, but you have to have that thing, whether it's family or physical, that you're working towards. How open to the whole group? How important is that?
That's what stretched things out. Was Marcus would come to therapy and have new creative thoughts of what he wanted to accomplish. So he transitioned at one point from a power chair to a power assist chair, and I remember had shoulder pains. We worked on a lot of scapular strengthening, and loves food. So he was like, how am I gonna get in and out of like restaurants and this thing? So we went down the street to a restaurant one day for his session, and my wife happened to work there at the time, which helped for like planning purposes. But
Free food.
that was like a memorable OT session, I think, where we went and got lunch together, and that wasn't my idea. I mean, it was more Marcus driving a lot of the goal, I think, picture of how he wanted to achieve things.
And I think that is
Cheap
one
free
thing
lunch.
we're always asking too, is, even before they come, is what do you like to do?
Yeah.
Do you like to golf? Do you like to water ski? I mean, those are some pretty big goals, but as long as we know that, it kind of sets the inpatient teams up for,
Yeah. Yeah, it tees
What-
us
what a
up to know
patient-
what to expect and what to plan.
Are you following up with him at this point? Like he's been here for a couple months at Mary Free Bed. Do you follow up with your patients and see what they're up to?
I like to.
Yeah.
I mean, I have it's a blessing and a curse for me. I have a problem.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, Marcus was somebody even just from the get-go, you were like, I want to know how this guy does. The whole story with, his girlfriend at the time having her, brand new pregnancy, and just, he was kind of a young, fit dude that you wanted everything to, go right for. And so patients like that, yeah, I do have a bit of a soft spot for, where I try to, sometimes I'll even email these guys like, how's so-and-so doing? Or, text one of the docs, or I'll see their name on the discharge sheet. How did they do? So, yeah.
So Marcus, what do you remember at that point of when you were like first going home? What were some of the biggest like milestones for you, or things you were able to gain that like prepared you for this, like the new Marcus at home?
That's funny the way you say that, new Marcus. That resonates because I think that you're a whole new person when you go through something like this. Your family realizes it, and you do as well. But when it comes to what I gained, I mean, obviously I had a baby right when I got out of there.
Yeah.
So, I gained family pretty much. I mean, I left Mary Free Bed with a whole bunch of family. We're still friends, right? But my family grew a little bit, and I think what I gained is a different perspective on life, a lot more in the moment, and I know that that's important. Just staying present and taking care of what's necessary at the moment, but not dwelling on the past too much, worrying about the future too much. Enjoying the time that I have, and a second chance. Second chance is what I gained. Yeah.
What are last thing on him getting ready to go home? Like, how much thought goes into like that preparation, maybe that last week, where okay, like you're discharging, now you're starting your new life at home. How much do you prepare and work with him, or even his family, for that?
It was pretty extensive because I feel like we did a home eval
did,
on
yeah.
him. And so we don't always do that anymore, pending insurance coverage and so forth. But yeah, we actually took him to his residence, measured things, problem solved things far in advance of discharge to make sure equipment would fit. And like, that's so crucial because at the time, Jamie and I were both doing outpatient therapy too. So we knew that when he went home, we would still see him again. And I think working it that way allowed us to really figure out what barriers and struggles people encountered right when they went home, in a unique way. Because if you only do inpatient, you don't really get to see it as much. So, but inevitably, it's always harder than you want it to be. There's no way to fully prepare, but I think with the time that we had with him, we could at least walk him through scenarios, right? And if you have an incontinent episode, what does this look like? That's often a big barrier, right? And trying to find ways how can you easily get in and out? We knew that was going to be important for appointments for his new baby and for him. But yeah, I think that was the uniquely positive thing that we had with him, is that we could actually bring him to his home and he could kind of feel out the space before going and even help us problem solve what felt good to him.
What was the biggest challenge, the hardest part about that new being at home now? You don't have the team right around you, the nurse that you can call in.
Well, initially the hardest thing was trying to find housing, to even have somebody to come, a place for them to come look at. And then when I got home, I guess not having an easy button, that call light was a real safety valve, knowing that I could call somebody, and especially knowing that it wasn't my family or somebody that was gonna, So I guess when I went home, leaning on family a lot more was something that was I had to learn how to do. And then it's different. You don't want to push your family too much. I fortunately had full out of no fault, so I had caregivers and assistants and things, but your family's still there for you when that person's across the room or something. They're gonna help you. I don't know. I think that the biggest thing was learning how to manage what I'm gonna do with family, that kind of thing. Trying not to lean on them too much, but letting them love on me and do what they want to do.
Did you guys practice holding a baby and all
Yeah,
the baby
yeah,
stuff, I
yes.
assume, too?
A lot.
Yeah.
Actually, Jen Finley helped with that quite a bit.
Yeah, she had a whole program for you going on.
What's funny is I got home and we didn't account for the squirming quite as much as I think we should have.
I mean, that's a good point. Even with the prep for home, you never can I think as therapists, we always want to dot the I's and cross the T's, but you can't hit everything.
Someone needs to be wiggling that baby around.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, true.
And how soon after you got home and you were doing outpatient did you start going back to work? Because I know that you've had different, efforts and work that you were doing over the years, but what was that like?
It was about 2 years before I started doing anything really with work. I still managed my insurance agency, but I had a manager there on site, and I didn't report to the office very often. It was mostly just checking in by conference call and things like that for that first about year and a half, 2 years. And then I went back to work at building a caregiving company, actually, and did that for a few years, and then finally went back to my insurance agency once that was up and running. And recently I sold that, and so I'm still doing insurance, but I'm not the agent, so to speak. No contract and things like that. I'm more of a broker.
What's it like for the team here to those earlier times when Marcus first was going back to work? How does that make you guys feel to see those return to this new normal for him?
I think it's amazing. I remember Marcus and I going out to his insurance agency that he was working for at the time to do an assistive tech eval. And just to see the motivation to do that soon after such a impactful injury, it was he was right there next to me, no, this is where I come around this way. Meeting some of the people in his office, you could tell they were really psyched even at the potential of him coming back to work, and he was just fully engaged and knew from, I think, everything he learned at Free Bed too about what to expect from an ergonomic perspective. Marcus was not a passive person along for that ride. He was right there in the mix of talking about what he needed, which I think is important in that process.
You probably wanted me to shut up a little bit just because I had an undergrad of interdisciplinary health service.
Yeah, you knew what OT was.
Yeah, no, you probably wanted me to shut up a lot.
What I think too, he's just always someone he always has a new idea, and then he has the idea and then he does it. I don't think anybody in this room probably ever put anything past Marcus. If
No.
he says he wants to get it done or try a new idea or try a new business or something, it's going to probably be up and running well pretty soon here.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if this is how you feel, but like staying busy is probably like so crucial to just having a good headspace, right?
Yeah.
And just like
1,000%
for you, it seems like being busy is super helpful.
is necessary for me. I mean, to be honest, it's a hard life. It is. When you slow down, for me, when I slow down, I have to face it a little more, you know? And so I'm doing little bits of facing it at a time. I stay busy as much as I possibly can. And so I only have to face a little bit at a time and take it so I can chew it. You know, does that make sense? It's like little mouthfuls instead of drinking from a faucet with this thing, you know? I think when you're just idle, that's when you really have to drink from a faucet. And, right? Yeah.
How soon after leaving Mary Free Bed did you start working with the Patient and Family Advisory Council? Was that something more recent or something later on?
Man, that's been with probably the last 5 or 6 years. I don't really know. Honestly, I really don't know how long it's been. But I started doing peer mentorship. I was inpatient. Or I was still doing outpatient for sure within the first 6 months. Probably I was doing peer mentorship on a one-to-one basis and the group setting as well.
Jamie or Jess, can either of you guys share what that is like and how impactful it is for patients when they can connect with someone who's a little further down the road?
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly one of the things that I admire about Marcus the most is that I feel like he can have his own stuff going on, but he follows through and follows up. Like, in fact, I have a inpatient right now who met him at peer support like last week, and he was like, Marcus texted me and he's showing me his phone. And I'm like, he kept saying Mark or Marcus, and I'm like, who is it? And he was like, oh, there. And I'm like, here it is, Marcus Fairfield, how you doing? And the same thing happened like 2 weeks ago for another former patient who was inpatient again, and like we're working together, and I see on the phone like, Marcus just texted you, how are you doing? So he really has his own stuff going on, but I feel like, I mean, at the end of the day, we just like work in this setting, right? And I always think like, if this happened to me, like what would I be feeling and thinking? I have no idea what kind of headspace I'd be in. So I think like bringing patients together that we think are similar is so crucial because they are actually walking that road, right? And so like they can maybe give you tips or tricks and caregiver support, how to like interact with your loved ones. I mean, it's a myriad of things, but I do think that is so crucial in the rehab process. And I love that about Mary Free Bed, that we have such a huge group of former patients that are now mentors. And like not everybody can make it frequently because of, time constraints and issues going on in their lives. But I feel like Marcus always steps up and makes the time.
And I think having that variety of peer support of, you don't want to put a Marcus who's ready to go at 110% with the 85-year-old, no offense to the 85-year-olds, but, to have that kind of smorgasbord of different ages, different, male, female, all the things is very important. Different stages in life. I mean, putting him with somebody, I had another patient I brought in who also was about to have a new child, and it was like immediately my brain is like, how do we get Marcus in? Before he even came to us, and I think you two may have connected at some point.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Am I
But
gonna say his name?
don't worry, I can connect with the 85 grades too. I'm an old soul. I got it. You need some help, I got you.
So what are you doing now? You kind of mentioned it a little bit, getting into like care programs, but like what's your latest business that you got your hands in right now?
Well, recently I sold my stake in a juice bar that I was part of.
Yeah.
That's like part of my heart. Just the juice cleansing is so big. I hope everybody does it regularly. And so I moved on to, I sold that stake because I'm part owner in a medical equipment company.
Okay.
And I used to be in the caregiving realm because I like to change the standard operating procedure so it's a little more patient-centered. That industry is something that I'm passionate about because I have caregivers every day. I see them not treated exactly how I think they should be treated for their selfless service and to me, they're working well above what their wage is. They're doing things that are crazily responsible. And so I want to, that in that sector, I was trying to change it so that caregivers get taken care of a little better, patients are heard a little bit louder, and so I think I did that, and I think that that company's up and running and doing that pretty well, and so I want to do something like that in the medical equipment side as well.
Awesome. We've talked about it so much before we recorded, but like just the fun camaraderie here. Like, do you guys have a favorite memory from your time at the hospital, either inpatient or outpatient, something that's safe for the live stream that we can share, like that just shows this friendship here?
Oh,
You're just so funny.
I mean, there was Marcus and I were just cooking up adaptive equipment a lot, and some of the laughter that happened in that splitting room, I'm surprised I was still considered for a leadership role, because it was just, it's like, what is going on? But we made so much progress, like making different things, that Marcus would come in and be like, Jamie, get the splitting pan ready, and we'd
Yeah, you guys are
stretch
so
and do
creative.
e-stim, and we'd make something that enabled Marcus to do something at home or cook, or just a myriad of things that also within that, I think that gave Marcus and I time to connect too, where I learned like this dude isn't always just joking and cracking jokes, but like he is deep and has so much life experience to share. So
We cried together.
we did cry together. I will say we laughed and cried together.
Yeah.
You know, it was a big experience.
And that's, I think, something about occupational therapy, that activities of daily living, and how our team is so creative to think, what are we going to do? And we didn't have this technology back then, but we have it now. But like 3D
Yeah.
painting,
Yeah.
how we don't have to ship out for something, like we can make it overnight, and the next day we have some kind of device that can help someone hold a phone or hold a spoon or
Yes.
whatever they're needing.
Yeah, exactly. These were the old days where
Yep.
you just cook it up in the splitting pan, and
yeah.
you know that led, you know, now we have a cool 3D printer, but
Can I come back and
yeah,
stay
you
impatient?
say.
You guys got a 3D printer.
Yeah,
I
we
would
got to
come back and play.
Yep.
There's some things we can do.
For sure.
So I want to go around the room here, but like, what's something maybe you've taken away from this conversation that's like you were excited to see in Marcus and reliving these times? Kristen, is there anything that you're just happy to see for him and how he's been doing?
I mean, I think it goes back to really the first time or two that I met him, even before he realized it, is there was something, exciting, and you knew that he was going to do good and you wanted good for him. So for him to be sitting here doing all of those things, I kind of like being right. So,
Yes.
feel free to just
You
say
put your
it.
money
But
on him and it was
also,
right.
I did put my money on him. And yeah, it's great to see. And his daughter's beautiful, and he's just done a really good job as just a human and a dad and a friend. Yeah.
Jamie, what about you? What's been fun about this conversation and just kind of reconnecting?
Yeah, I think, Marcus is one of those people that brings like a light to his presence, is kind of a light. And when I saw him, rolling into the front door with a smile on his face and his coffee mug, I was like, this dude is so resilient. He's such a resilient guy. And you just want to see people of that nature continue to grow. And Marcus does continue to grow, and he's doing a lot of different things. And I think that's really just the exciting part of reconnecting, is to see what other things Marcus has achieved too.
What about you, Jess? How can we maybe help Marcus feel like he's got a big head with all us
Yes.
saying these great things?
Who's is he going tomorrow? Yeah. But it's funny. I would say resilience too. Like, what's fun is to see, like, it's been 10 years, right? And he's not only the accident, but gone through other adversity since then too. And so I think he's taken it in stride and found ways to continue his life goals. Like you said, like, you have to keep pushing. You have to have some goal in life. And he's raising his daughter, and he's active in the community. He makes tons of friends. And so it's just great to see, because sometimes we see people like at their worst states, right? Like, we're seeing them at their lowest, and to see you now is awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, Marcus, we're going to end, but I want to hear from you. What kind of advice do you have for somebody? Maybe they are going through a spinal cord injury from a car accident just like you, or maybe they're in some other form of like rehabilitation recovery. What would you say to them to maybe, hopefully they've got that spark and that light that you have?
I guess we to echo what we talked about earlier, staying busy, make your mind so it's not just idle. I mean, being idle is a scary place when your whole life's changed and you're facing a whole new you. That's one part of it, and the other part is like cherish your family some and get them support as well. Definitely lean on whatever support you can at Mary Free Bed to make it so your family feels, I don't know, as warm as you do when you go home, and so that they get taken care of. Because I think that this can separate families pretty hard.
Yeah.
You know, if there's not real counseling and real grievance and that whole process to, you know, mourn that loss of the old life you might have had, the old person. I think personalities change really hard.
Yeah.
From this, and for the better and for the worse at times. And I think that the counseling could make it so it's more so on the better side for everybody.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. We've been talking to Marcus Fairfield and some of his team here at Mary Free Bed. We'll share in the comments some videos that you can go back and see a little bit of Marcus way back in the day 10 years ago. So everybody, thank you so much for watching, and stay well.